Welcome to Duo Dive. I'm Allie.
I'm Ashley.
And this is the podcast for curious people. Each week, we'll dive into a new topic and explore stories you may or may not have heard of, but you definitely won't forget. Hello, Ashley. How are you doing today?
Hey, Allie. I'm good. How are you? How's your Christmas?
My Christmas was good. My New Year's was good. I feel like it was a month ago. My life has just started without the holidays. I don't know how to explain. I just feel like it wasn't really a holiday season for me this year.
Oh, really? You just didn't get into the spirit, or?
Not in a bad way. Maybe just because I didn't go anywhere.
Oh, yeah.
And so for me, I just felt like it happened so long ago. Now everyone's coming back to work, but I feel like I've been settled already. I don't know.
Yeah.
It was fun. It was fun, though.
That makes sense. That's confusing for the brain. Do you have any New Year's resolutions?
I feel like I made a lot of mid-year resolutions in 2022. Ooh. So my New Year's resolutions are just to stick to them. And these aren't necessarily things that I sat down pen and paper and wrote down. I just mentally started doing things and I've been keeping up with them.
Love it.
So I'm going to continue that in 2023. What about you? How was your holiday?
It was great. It was tiring. I feel like the holidays are so fun, but sometimes a little exhausting. My resolution for 23, which I make light resolutions because I feel like when I go really intense or hard, I don't end up doing them. So mine this year is gratitude.
Oh, I like that.
Yeah, I'm excited. My aunt inspired me because I was talking to her about stuff and she was like, you just need to work on your gratitude. And I was like, okay, let's do it.
Cute. So I would say
for
both of us, probably a resolution is just to continue doing this, even though, in 5 days, less than 5 days, you're moving to London. We will be continuing this, and it's going to take a lot from both of us, but I'm excited. We'll be fine. We're us.
Yeah. Instead of a long distance relationship, it's a long distance podcast. LDP.
Exactly. And for anybody who doesn't know, it's not like Ashley and I don't talk all the time. So this won't be hard for us to come up with ways to get around time zones and busy schedules. We'll be fine.
Yeah. We got this.
That's not going anywhere.
We'll be here, ladies and gentlemen.
And obviously, we've been talking about it a lot recently. Ashley has been very busy with her move to London. So this week, you are getting me, Allie, again. I'm very excited.
Woo!
I texted my girl Ash last week, and I was like, you're way too busy. Let me, who sits at home, take over and just do another week just to kind of give her a little bit of time to get her life together. So this will probably be a really short episode because of that. But I'm excited for you to know about what I'm talking about. I don't want to ruin it for you. Instead, I want to jump in with our recommendations for this week.
Yes. And I just got to say, Allie, you a real one for that. Thank you for taking over this week because I could have done it, but I don't know how well I would have done it. So everyone, I'm not just thankful. You should be thankful too. But yeah, Allie, hit us up with your recommendation this week.
I'm pretty sure by now my recommendation, a lot of people have already seen. It is Glass Onion on Netflix. It's the Knives Out sequel. And while I do recommend the movie, I think it was a good movie. My heart is telling me to recommend that everybody go back and rewatch the first one, Knives Out itself. If you think you remember it, if you remember liking it, I watched Glass Onion, like I said, great movie. But at the end of the day, I felt like it was missing what Knives Out had to make it so special. And so I recommend going back, even if you've seen it relatively recently or you're like, oh yeah, I know what happens. Just go back and watch it. It'll just be one of those comfort movies where you're like, oh, that's right. This is a good movie. So I recommend that this week.
Wait, hold up though. I didn't realize there's a series. I watched the movie this past weekend, but I did not watch the series.
So it's not a series. Glass Onion is the second movie in air quotes. But the only thing that makes it the second movie is that the detective is in the first. Daniel Craig is in the first.
Oh my
gosh. He's coming back, but he's solving a whole new mystery. It's not connected at all to the first at all. Nothing's mentioned about the first.
Okay, I had no clue that this was a sequel.
Did you watch Knives Out?
Yeah. The one with the billionaire or whatever?
Yeah.
Yeah, I had no clue. Yeah, no, I had no clue.
Oh my gosh. Oh no. Well, I mean, I guess that's kind of good for you because you weren't like expecting anything. Me, I loved Knives Out. So I was like expecting it to have all the same qualities, and it didn't.
Yeah.
It was good, but it didn't have the same qualities.
Great. Well, now I have something to watch on the plane on my way to London. Perfect. Thank you, Allie.
Welcome. Okay, let me hear yours.
That's great. Okay, so mine is a little workbook that I got. It's like a journaling workbook. Actually, I think you saw it when we were together, Allie, and you asked me about it. It's called How to Meet Yourself. And maybe you didn't see it. Maybe that was someone else. I'm losing my mind. But anyway, this workbook has a bunch of journaling prompts, and it's written by this therapist. Her name's Dr. Nicole LaPera. Love her first book that she wrote. It's called How to Do the Work. Basically, it's like therapy in a book, which is great because, as many of you know, therapy is very expensive. So if you can pay $15 and do it yourself, I'm here for it. So that's what I would recommend.
Have you started it, or is it you're saving it for the new year?
Yeah, I've started it. I'm on like the second or third journal prompt. Right now, the prompt is on being conscious and taking little moments through the day and just stopping and realizing that you are where you are and you're doing what you're doing, and like just taking a minute to take it all in. Yeah.
No, I like that. Okay, so what's it called again, and where can someone find it?
Yeah, it's called How to Meet Yourself by Dr. Nicole LaPera, the workbook, and you can get it on Amazon.
Love that. Well, those are our recommendations for this week. We hope that you take them, but don't hold it against us if you don't like them.
Amen, sis.
Now we're going to move on to our case. I say case like I'm really a true crime podcaster, but that's what this topic essentially is this week. It is a true crime story. It is the kidnapping of Sherri Papini. Ashley, do you know anything about the kidnapping of Sherri Papini?
Zero.
Ooh, okay. Love that.
Literally
I did not expect you to, but about an hour ago, I was like, oh crap, what if she has? And what's the point of doing this if she knows all about it? But we are going to talk about what happened to Miss Sherri and kind of the craziness that is the story. I can't say anything else without giving it completely away.
Oh, I'm excited. Okay.
So, without further ado, let's dive in. Our story is going to start on November 2nd, 2016 with Sherri Papini. She was a mother of two, and she disappeared without a trace while out on a run in her Redding, California neighborhood. So a little bit about Sherri. She was short, like kind of a petite, very beautiful blonde woman. She was married to Keith Papini. They met in high school, and she did have a previous marriage that when it ended, she kind of got together with Keith. They rekindled their love, and they got married and had two small children. Well, small, of course, because they are children. At this time, though, they are still very young. So immediately, her husband, Keith Papini, and her family launched a massive search once they realized that she was missing. And they even started this GoFundMe that raised about $50,000. Wow. I find that kind of crazy. I see GoFundMes all the time. I wonder who was like clicking it. I guess with like media attention, it was a really big story at the time. People just like felt it in their hearts. But like I was really surprised, like over $50,000 was raised because there's so many.
That's a lot.
Worthy causes kind of out there.
What were the funds for? Just resources to search for her?
Resources to search for her. So you got to think about like you can hire different companies to come out if like the police have done their search and they haven't found anything. You can hire third parties to come out, or like think about posters, stuff like that.
Private investigators, things like that. Gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay.
The police also launched an investigation, and a reward was offered for any information. So I kind of wanted to chat a little bit. Like I mentioned, she was this white, petite, beautiful, blonde woman. And a lot of times with a lot of cases, you will go to report someone missing, not you, but like I've seen so many stories where family members have gone to report someone and they've been told it hasn't even been 24 hours. They might be coming back. And essentially it kind of gets brushed aside until 24 to 48 hours is the most important time in a case. But until that time comes, that's when police really start to take it seriously. So it's surprising / not surprising that they jumped right on this case. Maybe if you think about like who she was and what she looked like. But it's definitely something to take note of considering the large media scrutiny that surrounds this case.
Interesting. I wonder if there are certain things that you should say to police officers, or if there's a certain way to go about it that will make them more likely to take you seriously when someone goes missing, or if it's just purely like based on bias and past experiences of the police officers.
Yeah, and it can also be based on like who the person who's gone missing is. Do they have any previous, family issues, friend issues, life issues where they've maybe run away before, or they speak to someone and that person says, well, they like to be on their own. Like, it's not unsurprising for them to kind of stop communicating. So police do look into things like that, but no one really knows better than immediate family if something's wrong.
Yeah.
So you just hope the police listen to you.
Yeah, that's honestly scary. So, okay, I need more information before I hop to conclusions. So keep going, Allie.
Well, this case isn't really about how the police handled it. It's more about just like Sherri in general, like what happened to her. But I did want to bring up that point of conversation. This is a short ep, so it's always interesting to take little trails and dive into different things.
Yeah, a little detour. Okay, I like it.
Back to Sherri's husband, he knew something was amiss when he got home from work and Sherri was not there with her kids. She was a stay-at-home mom. After failing to get a hold of her, he called the daycare center, and the daycare center actually informed him that the children were still there. So he immediately reported her missing. And that's kind of maybe what got the police in the investigation going. Like, what mother leaves her children without telling her husband? And you just don't do that with your kids, a sane person.
That seems pretty cut and dry, yeah.
On November 10th, police released that Keith had passed his lie detector test and he was not a suspect in his wife's disappearance.
Okay. I have a problem with that. Keep going.
If there's one key thing you need to know, it's majority of the time the husband's always done it. But in this instance, not only did he pass his lie detector test, his alibi checked out. He was at work.
Okay. His boss isn't his mom, right?
Throwback to Adnan Syed. No.
Well, I do know though that lie detector tests are not actually. It's kind of pseudoscience from what I understand too. So.
Yeah, it very much is. I mean, it picks up like basically how nervous you are, and you're going to be nervous no matter what if you're getting one of those. So they're not my favorite, but it's like kind of in hindsight, like if someone's innocent and they have a weird lie detector test, you can always be like, well, of course they were just nervous. Like they were getting interrogated by the police. But if they're guilty and they have a bad lie detector test, it's like, oh, we knew they were guilty all along. The lie detector test told us. And that's just not true. Like, I just hate how we use it in hindsight.
Well, can it even be used in the court of law?
No, I don't think it's admissible in court.
Yeah, I don't think it is either. So why are we doing it? Okay. Whatever.
Anyways. So Keith sat down with ABC News and he said, quote, "I would never wish this feeling upon anybody. It's taking its toll on me. You never think you're in a position like this," end quote. And he was doing a lot of media, like he was going on the media trying to like drum up interest in his wife's case because they really had no idea what was happening to her.
Yeah.
And he had originally tracked his wife's phone and found it located on the side of the road, which further accredited this idea that was blooming that she had been taken against her will. So she hadn't just run away or disappeared. Like they found a piece of her that she never would have left on the side of the road where she was running.
That was literally going to be my first question because I don't know about you. You have my locations. And so does Andrew. And, if I disappear, y'all at least know where my phone is. So
I love tracking Nathan so much. He hates it, but I'm like, what if you get in like a car accident and I'm expecting you home at a certain time and I can just track your location and see like you're at X location and you've been there for 30 minutes, like something's wrong. So then I can just go.
Yeah.
You never know. Okay, that's really crazy, but like you never know.
You really don't. And it just gives you like a sense of security. You always know where your loved ones are.
Yeah, exactly. So Keith continued in his interview with ABC News to say, quote, "She could drop her phone, but she would never in a million years not pick up our children on a time that she normally would have," end quote. The case was compared relatively early to a similar Reading kidnapping that happened in 1998. So I'm going to take you a little bit to this other kidnapping in the same area, basically. No, not the same area, the same trail, the same city, the same running trail. So this happened in 1998, like I said.
Weird.
On August 22nd, Tara Smith, who was like this fun-loving 16-year-old, didn't show up for her shift at her parents' fun park. So they owned and operated this essentially go-karting, mini golf, think that style thing. And all their kids worked there. And Tara that night did not show up for her shift. So her mother called the house, and the younger sister informed her that she'd gone out for a run and never returned. So quickly, Terry and Marilyn Smith, who were Tara's parents, got the police involved, and they intensely searched for this young girl. It was soon uncovered that Tara did have an inappropriate relationship with her 29-year-old Taekwondo instructor, Troy Zink. Again, she is 16. While maintaining his innocence, Zink did admit that he picked up Tara that day, and they had a dispute over money. She was asking for like $2,000, and he didn't want to give it to her. It's kind of what he was saying. They argued in the car, and then he dropped her off at a trail to go on a run.
Okay. Why would you ask for $2,000?
After that, he went up into the mountains and prayed by himself for hours.
Oh, I'm sure he did.
Yep. And then he went home to his wife.
That seems legit.
So that's just a quick overview, because to this day, the case remains cold and there is little to no evidence that has surfaced. So it's widely believed that this Taekwondo instructor, Troy Zink, was responsible for Tara's disappearance and ultimately most likely her murder, but they've never gotten anything to prove that and arrest him. So it just kind of remains this like big case in Redding, California.
Her poor parents. It's horrible.
It is definitely, to like not even know where she is or what happened to her.
Yeah,
I
that's
think
like
it's the craziest.
No closure. Like she could be alive somewhere. That would just, that's not good.
No. But like I said, eerily similar to Sherri Papini's kidnapping.
Yeah.
And in the days following her disappearance, Keith did reach out to the Smith family to kind of compare cases. And that's like when, you know, I'm sure this was all very weird to them as well, but they did have a belief that this Troy Zink was responsible. So unless he were to be striking again, I don't think the family necessarily believed it was connected, but they were offering as much support as they could to the Papini family. So nothing definitive ever linked the two cases, kind of like what I was just saying. And in a statement to the Sacramento Bee, Terry Smith, who was Tara's father, said, quote, "In many ways, it's worse than what we have to go through, because at least we pretty much know who did it and what he did. And even though we never found her body, we've kind of come to terms with that," end quote.
Yeah.
So exactly what I was summarizing the case to be. The family doesn't believe the cases are linked, but they fully support the Papinis. Now, one of the biggest differences in the cases was that 22 days after her disappearance, Sherri Papini was found released on the side of the road, 150 miles from her home.
What?
This case moves very, very, very quickly. So there's not much I can tell you about the investigation, because they had nothing to go on for the 22 days she was gone. They were just trying to drum up media coverage and support, trying to figure out where she was. And then all of a sudden, she appears. And she was like battered and bruised and shackled basically, and a driver just saw her like stumbling along the side of the road. And this was Thanksgiving Day 2016. So they obviously like pulled over, asked her if she needed any help, to call 911. They did call her Sherri Panini, but
Panini.
She was essentially rescued, you could say. Even though she was released, there was no one around her. They just kind of found her.
Okay, so what's her story?
So following her return home, Sherri claimed that two Hispanic women were her abductors. And after forcing her at gunpoint into their car, they held her for 3 weeks and claimed she was going to be sold into a trafficking ring.
Okay, so then why'd they let her go?
No one knows. That's something she could not explain. During her ordeal, she lost 13 pounds, was branded on her back shoulder, and had injuries like scattered across her body.
Branded?
Yes, branded. Like a, you know what brand is. Yeah.
What was the brand?
I think from the pictures I saw, it just looked like a letter. It wasn't anything like super specific. It wasn't, a marking of any real significance. Maybe it was just a scare tactic. That's kind of like what they were thinking at the time. It was just this weird scare tactic these women used.
Yeah, that's strange. Okay. Is that like a thing they do when they traffic people? They brand them?
No. So like this case, like they were trying to drum up information about these two Hispanic women for a couple of years.
Yeah.
And even like officials would come forward and be like, this doesn't have any of them like similar markings of sex trafficking rings.
Right.
Like they don't hold you for 3 weeks, beat you up, and then let you go. Like you're basically instantly sold into trafficking.
That's what it would seem like, yeah, because they probably just want to make their money. So they would just ship you off wherever and get their money.
Yeah.
Uh-huh. Okay.
So
that seems a little touching.
Everyone was like really curious, like what the actual motivation of her kidnapping would have been. And there was like a couple people in the Hispanic community around Redding, California that like came forward and basically had to like say like, we're not all bad people. Like, I know you're looking for 2 Hispanic women, and they had the composite photos. They did release those, I think like a year later. Like they got enough information from Sherri to draw a composite photo and release it. They didn't have the bottom half of the women's faces. So in the drawings, it looks like they're wearing like bandanas or handkerchiefs.
Okay, so this is like how she described the way that they looked.
Yeah, gotcha. And I don't know if they always had something like that on, or if she couldn't describe enough for them to definitively draw something. So they had basically their hair and how their eyebrows looked, if that makes sense. Because one had really thin eyebrows, one had really thick eyebrows, one had curly hair, one had straight hair. So not a lot to go off of. And like I said, the Hispanic community was kind of having to come forward and be like, please don't discriminate against us and report us just because of something that a composite photo.
Yeah.
Like without real evidence, don't discriminate.
2 things come to mind. My first question is, has this happened to anyone else in the area? Like, is sex trafficking a problem there? Have any other like white women that look like her, or just, I guess, women in general been sex trafficked in that area? Like, is it a problem?
No, I would say Redding, California is just like a normal residential.
It's like a suburb, right?
Yes, exactly. Yeah. So we're not talking about like Los Angeles. We're not talking about Miami, nothing like that. So overall, it was just really, really weird. And these women were never located. No one ever like had anyone they suspected. I'm sure they questioned different people in the community, but no one was ever like unjustly brought in.
Sure.
And kind of framed for this. So the case essentially went cold for a long time. But now I want to jump to 2020.
Something came out. Was she having an affair?
This is 4 years after she was, she in Thanksgiving 2016, she was found. So this is 4 years. DNA evidence that was collected from Papini's clothing on the day she was found was finally matched. James Reyes, a Costa Mesa, California resident, was matched through genealogy. So basically they inserted like the DNA that they found, and I think they matched him through like his uncle or maybe his dad or something. And the reason they were able to say this is the guy is because Reyes was an ex-boyfriend of Papini.
I knew it.
After almost an hour into the interview, where police disclosed their discovery to him, Reyes admitted that Papini's supposed kidnapping was a hoax.
OMG.
She reached out to him months prior to her disappearance, claiming she was in an abusive relationship and looking to escape.
Oh my God. Oh my God. Oh, I have so many questions.
So after careful planning, like communicating via burner phones and setting up the time and date of disappearance, Papini went back with Reyes to his Costa Mesa home. And there she lived for 3 weeks. Like basically he took the couch, she took his bedroom, and she just kind of lived out there the whole time. She was self-inflicting wounds. So she was cutting her hair and she was like beating herself up. And she even asked Reyes to brand her. So like that's where that came from.
This one's crazy because, okay, there's so many. Okay. Do you think she was actually in an abusive relationship? I just want to start with that because before I roast her.
No. So one of the things that made the police kind of connect all these dots and uncover this case is that you had some people that were like her champion, saying that she was the greatest mother and she would never leave. And then you had some people that were like, all she does is lie. Like,
ooh, yeah. Like that's what that was the vibe the branding gave me. It's like, you're just lying for fun at this point. Like what's the point of that? You're just doing this for fun.
so it actually came out that she pulled like a similar stunt with her ex-husband, saying that he was like abusing her, and that's how she was like able to get out of that relationship and like get so much pity from people in her life. Is that she claimed that he
Girl,
was like emotionally and physically abusive.
that's so messed up.
No, I don't think she was abused by her husband, Keith. I just think that she has a mental instability that
Yeah.
makes her like bored in life. I don't even really know like how to seriously describe something like this. To do this to like your parents and your children. Like, you have kids. So not only
Yeah.
are you doing this to your husband, you're doing it to your children.
Yeah. Oh, great point. Yeah. It sounds like she's a pathological liar, among other things. So, oh my God, that's crazy.
So
Okay. What about the money?
Okay, so Sherri Papini was deflective when it came to her questions about Reyes, and she maintained her original story. However, eventually she did relent. Like, they had all the evidence. They kept coming for her.
Yeah.
In 2022, Keith Papini filed for divorce, and in March
Simply
of,
so.
of 2022, Sherri was arrested for making false statements to the police and mail fraud. Prosecutors claim Sherri Papini's hoax kidnapping cost taxpayers more than $300,000 in wasted resources.
Dude.
This includes the money that she collected from the California Victims Compensation Board and Social Security disability income, which she used to pay for therapy in 2016. So the government will allot you money if you go through something traumatic to use towards like getting better. So to your question, it's also reported that she used part of her GoFundMe money to pay off credit cards.
Ew, I hate her.
I know. And I think in like a statement, a judge was like, when it came to like the money that she would have to pay back, a judge was like, basically, I don't know how you're going to do this because who would hire you?
Right.
Because you're a liar.
So, like, what is her punishment? Does she just have to pay everyone back or what?
No. Okay. So she was found guilty of her charges and she began her 18-month sentence on November 8th. So about 2 months ago, she got sentenced to 18 months in federal prison.
I mean, that's not too bad, though.
No. I mean, I guess like in the long run, like money was taken from the government. Like that's the most damage that was done because, you know, she probably did the most damage to her family. And
yeah,
what are they really going to do about that? No one was actually seriously injured or harmed in any way. But I'm sure the like Hispanic community, I'm sure like they were probably owed some sort of compensation. Like I'm sure there were businesses that were boycotted, people that were discriminated against. Like,
I'm sure.
No doubt what she did like had lasting complications for everybody in that community.
Yeah, like ripple effects, essentially. You just like can't even quantify. God, that's so messed up. But yeah, why did she choose Hispanic people? Like, what'd they ever do to you, dude?
They did find some past like Facebook posts that were a little racially charged. They do believe she had like discriminatory thoughts and feelings towards Hispanic people for sure. There's like more to this case than what I just presented, of course. But you know, just wanted to do a little brief overview for everyone because I thought it was absolutely batshit crazy. I don't remember when she disappeared, obviously, because we're on the East Coast. It was more of a West Coast story, but I remember when news broke that like it was all a hoax.
Oh man, that's insane. Yeah. Well, it's just interesting too, because I feel like it was almost kind of obvious when she came back and all of these things were just so random, you know?
And she could never give them like anything solid in her interviews.
Yeah. And it's just like, none of this is tying back to anything. I don't know why, but her branding herself is still just like sending me. I'm like, you thought that's what would lock you in, you know, and make people believe you is if you got branded? Like, what does that have to do with anything, you fucking weirdo?
It's like she took anything bad that could happen if you were kidnapped and was like, it's going to happen to me and they're going to believe me. Like very rarely would all these different things happen to you if you were kidnapped. People tend to stick to like one thing. I don't know. Weird. But yeah, that is the story of Sherri Papini's kidnapping. I do want to end it by us putting vibes out for Tara Smith and her family. Like I said, that case is still unsolved.
Yeah,
They
that's so
believe
sad.
they believe they know who did it, but until there's definitive evidence, like there is no justice. So that would be a good one for everyone to have on their minds, maybe do some research, try and keep up if there's new developments. I'm sure with Sherri Papini and what she did, it did kind of bring more light to Tara's case again.
Yeah.
So if one good thing's going to come out of this crazy, ridiculous woman and her story, it would be that we have justice for Tara Smith finally.
Yeah, I was literally going to say the same thing. You took the words right out of my mouth. So sometimes bad things happen and then something good can come of it. So love that.
Ash, what did you think about my, I tried to play you at the beginning. I tried to make you think that this woman was kidnapped.
Yeah, I mean, it was an emotional roller coaster. I'm not going to lie, in a good way. So thank you for keeping me on the edge of my seat.
You're welcome. Thank you for joining me and sitting here talking about true crime every once in a while. I really like to do it.
Hey, I do too. And I hope our listeners like it. And I hope our listeners were fooled just as much as I was.
There we go. That's my goal. Well, next time we sit down and record, you're going to be living in London.
Woo! I can't wait. And I can't wait to have a more proper setup. It's just going to be great. It's going to be amazing.
We will keep everyone updated with the schedule for next week. It's very possible it could just move around a little bit. There's no telling when you're packing up your entire life and moving across the pond. We will, of course, try and stick to our Thursday releases. But like I said, if it's me again next week, we may just be doing that again.
And that will be just fine with me. But yeah, we'll see what happens. Hopefully everything just goes smoothly. We get over there. I'm living in an Airbnb for a month, so we'll see how the Wi-Fi is. But just one thing at a time. So I am very excited.
I love it. Okay. Well, I will talk to you later. And thank you everybody for listening.
Thanks, everyone.